buyers that move fast. We saw a house on Monday, and just one. It was nice. There were so many people swarming around that house. There must have been 5 appointments show up while we were leaving. And the guys were in the backyard working on the house, still working on pulling mud out of a storm shelter. And I bet you that thing already sold, Mud getting pulled out of the storm shelter, totally remodeled, pretty small, 900 square feet. And then yesterday we looked at another one that's been remodeled on
Peters
14th Street.
listing?
Yes.
No, it was?
Yeah, it was the Peters listing.
Wow.
And they wanted to write an offer like before I was even fully through the house. They were like, we want it. It's like, okay, well, it's hard when they haven't seen a lot of houses, but it's also like a gem, you know. And then at the time there were no offers on the table, but by 8 o'clock, I was told there were 5 offers coming in, including ours. Ours was already in. And so we went.
Did you decide to modify once you realized there were more offers?
Ever so slightly.
Okay,
because
just one little thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to. We wrote $5,500 over the asking price.
Okay.
And didn't have to ask for any closing costs paid. And then when I found out there were other offers coming in, I asked him if they wanted to modify. He said no. And I said, hey. I understand what you're saying, and I promise not to push you any further, but we're at $5,500. Can we make it a little bit more odd? Are you okay with going up $1,000 more to make it $6,500 over the asking price? Just so it's not like $1,000 over $5,000 over $10,000. Make the numbers a little strange and see if you can beat the other one. But we still lost. There were 2 offers that were higher than ours.
At this point, we don't know if it was necessarily like somebody with cash, or do we know if it was a
she just told me that there were 2 that were higher, and I didn't dig any further because that's helpful.
It really don't matter. Yeah, it really don't matter. Cash, or you're going to take the higher offer.
And right now, the thing is, like, you don't even have to build in closing costs with first-time buyers because you're getting the grant.
Yes.
So the grant is actually leveling the playing field between these buyers that have some cash and the buyers that don't have any cash. Or hardly any cash.
Hell, it's beyond leveling the playing field. In some cases, it's allowing people into the game altogether.
Yes,
that ain't getting into the game without these funds, and I think it's beautiful that they exist.
Me too.
And if you're an agent and you don't know what we're talking about right now, I'm gonna need you to wake up. Okay, wake up!
It's coming, man.
All right, it's coming. It's basically here. The funds are going to be available basically at the beginning of the next month. But you can get somebody hooked up on a house. They can be pre-qualified for those funds. And as long as they close after the funds are available, we are in good shape. And it's free money, guys. Listen, the pandemic happened. Every other day there was something on the news talking about somebody scamming PPP money. This is no scam. And you get to keep the money to buy a really, really, really important investment. So, if you don't know what that's about, wake up. And for anybody who's possibly in the market, give us a holler or talk to a local agent about or a local lender about grant money and if you qualify.
The grant is large. The grant is larger than it's ever been around here. In the past, our grant was $7,000 or $7,500 to go towards your down payment and your closing costs. But this year in Topeka, Kansas and Lawrence, Kansas, the grants from these banks are either $12,500 if you make under a certain amount of income calculated on your county's median income. So I believe in Topeka, it's like $110,000 or less for a family of 4, then you qualify for $12,500, and it's like $70,000 or $69,000 or something like that for a family of 4, then you qualify for a $15,000 grant.
And that's the other huge difference between what we've had in the past and what we've got now. In the past, you basically had to be technically in poverty to qualify for these $7,500. If you were a middle-class citizen, it was not going to be available for you. And now with these new programs available, you can be a middle-class citizen. You can make, I believe, up to 150% of the adjusted median income for their area. So for you guys that are math nerds, or not math nerds,
economics nerds too.
Yeah, that's right. You can you can make a couple of dollars and you can still qualify, which is incredible because, man, I mean, we've all dealt with people who needed the money and then for whatever reason didn't qualify for it. And they went ahead and signed another lease with that landlord because they just didn't have it together. And now this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is the time. And then there's the question of, well, so what if the interest rates are too high right now? Should I buy right now? Well, I think the idea is that once everything gets rolling and everything is back in the swing, and even if rates go down in the future, that's going to be an even bigger boost on demand. And nothing is happening with the supply of the houses. I hate to get back in. No, I love to get back into the supply, demand, economics kind of stuff. You know, I love that. But the point is that don't be afraid of the rates being high. Because if need be, you know, you can refinance later and get a lower rate. If the rates happen to go down in some kind of substantial way, then you can refinance. The thing, you know, so then you say, well, you know, what if it's not really worth it for me to refinance? Well, guess what? Then right now is not a bad deal. You know, then if it's not worth it for you to refinance in the future, then the rate that you got right now is actually a good rate.
There you go.
And if the rate, and you're protecting yourself, because if the rates actually go up, then you still have a better rate.
That's right.
So don't wait.
And if the rates go down, you've already proven to yourself that you can, by the bank standard, afford a higher payment. Okay. And so when the refinance time comes, you might be more apt to cutting time off of the loan than you are getting a lower payment. You said, well, actually, we've been making this higher payment that we didn't want for the past year and a half. And they're telling me now with the lower rates, I can chop 7 years off my mortgage term by simply keeping the same amount of money to pay for the mortgage each month, even though we've adjusted the interest rate to where I'm paying more on it. And with that said, I learned a really, really cool gem just the other day from another local agent.
Okay.
And it's a great reminder of the power of compounding interest. Did you know that if you simply make one more mortgage payment in a year, 13 instead of 12, you take your, I don't know, maybe you have some kind of tax refund money or a bonus money from your job, and you make that 13th payment. Did you realize no matter how big the loan is, no matter how big it is, you're going to drop 7 years.
7 years.
7 years off of your mortgage payment. That is the power of compounding interest. And that extra payment must go to principal directly. So talk to somebody at the bank before you do it, or they'll just think you're making a payment for another month.
How could that be real? How could it be real?
Compound.
It is.
This is for the math nerds.
The
math nerds are laughing in the corner. The power of the numbers. You said I would never be powerful, and look at me now. I'm chopping 7 years off your mortgage.
You know what number we need now? We need to do, next time we come back, we're going to give you one of those for a 15-year mortgage. What I've been doing for friends and family for 10 years or so is I've been coaching my friends and family to just buckle down, and if you can, go for that 15-year mortgage. Now, I understand money is cheap and you can borrow it for a long time. That's good. When money was cheap, you know, it's not necessarily cheap right now. So, you know, if you can just set yourself up for a shorter loan period, the people that I told to do that are now like 7 years in. You know, they're like 8 years until their house is paid off. They might be 30 years old, you know, it's really hard to do that. And they took, you know, they had less disposable income for doing that, but they are so close to having their house paid off that they're so much closer than my other clients who are 23 years away from having their house paid off. And that's the math I want to know. What if those people on the 15-year note made one extra payment every year? What does that do? Knock it down to a 10-year mortgage or 11-year?
Well, I mean, when you look at the numbers and you look at the total amount of money you pay on a 30-year versus a 15-year, you need to really, you know, one of my favorite sayings is you cannot unknow what you know to be true. And when you see the 30-year adds $100 and some $1,000 to the amount that you'll be paying
to $100,000 mortgage, or maybe $150,000 mortgage.
It is mind blowing. But there was a math class that you took where they talked about this stuff, and maybe it had a profound effect on you, and maybe you slept through it.
It even sounds, as crazy as it sounds, it's still not even a bad deal, you know, because you are buying a house, and now every month when you make a payment, you know, at least in the beginning, a third of it is going to yourself. You know, you're building that equity. And as you move further into that mortgage, more and more money that you pay every month that you would pay to rent for somebody else's mortgage is going towards you. So buying a house has not failed me. Has it failed you?
No, no.
We just want to keep buying them, don't we?
It's only helped me, and
You know,
very, very happy I got started early.
I've got some money in stocks, and that thing, you're just riding a roller coaster all the time. You're watching the news like what's happening. But I'm not thinking that way about the houses that I own, you know, houses that I bought, and I'm renting out because people do need to rent. It's, you know, when I'm renting, as a landlord, I'm not thinking, well, can't wait to take advantage of another tenant. You know, it's not that.
I'm going to talk somebody into renting that's definitely a qualified buyer and would be, no. There are plenty of circumstances in which renting is definitely the better option over buying for some people.
How fast do we move, guys? Like, what do you think when you listen to us? Are you guys like, whoa, subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, subject 4, We haven't crashed yet, have we?
Oh, no. I am being eerily blown up by a specific agent in which I have another deal with right now, and it's definitely making me wonder what the heck's going on. But
the life of the real estate agent.
And honestly, you know, if I had to say anything, I'm sure there's people in our audience that would hope that we would stop, you know, articulating so much on each subject. I mean, I don't know if we're bouncing around too much or if we're spending too much time. But at the end of the day, we take what we do very, very seriously, and we do not want to leave anything out or give anything that could be considered bad or incomplete advice, because this is one of the most important purchases you're ever going to make in your life. So sorry if we're long-winded. It's just because we care.
We're going to cut it all up for you guys anyway. And, you know, my comment about our long-windedness is like, I think I need to take notes on what we talked about because I have more ideas about those things that we talked about, you know?
Yes. You go down one corridor and more branches, you know, come out of there, and they're all important.
When we make AI cartoons of ourselves, and then we're just programmed them to go back and listen to us, and then they'll just do this automatically. That's not far away. What, like a year, 6 months?
It's probably already
depends
happening.
on how busy we are.
I mean, shout out to BET. Back in the day, there was a program, and there was they called it Sita's World.
Huh.
And they had this weird AI cartoon that had her own 2-hour programming block in which she would VJ, you know, videos, but it wasn't a cartoon though. You could tell that they had something set up to where some person was doing the stuff, but instead of that person being on TV for real, it was you know, check it out. I don't know, it's on YouTube. Legendary, ahead of its time programming.
I mean, I've heard of it. I'm sure that I saw it once or twice, you know, when my parents let me get the TV for a little bit, you know. But so it was like virtual, it was like imagined computer AI awareness video show, huh?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what's been going on with the market in your, you know, is it heating up as spring is right around the corner? Are you noticing anything different? I mean, since I've been in the game for the past 3 years, it's definitely been a seller's market with low inventory. But within those 3 years, there have been little seasons, you know, little things that we've noticed, trends that go one way or another, and you know, that we're talking about.
Well, when we look at the months, that's how I measure everything, is month supply. You know, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but from having the conversations I've had with sellers lately, and buyers too, you know, sellers, we use the month supply to tell us how much supply versus demand there is. So we had to get this absorption rate, the month supply. And if it's low, if it's really low, like every house would sell in a month if nothing new came on the market, then we know as a seller, you know, we don't need to be bashful in terms of how high we're going to price this house.
Yeah.
Why would you? And that
competition is minimal.
There are different philosophies on how you price a house. Do you price it low and let people overbid it, or do you price it high and wait to have one person come through that really likes it and show it to a lot of people? And as in the real estate business, there's a lot of stuff that factors into that, like the seller situations. So I say all that to say that right now, I am not being bashful with my sellers. As long as they don't have a very complicated home situation for showing the house, then I'm telling them that we need to look at what it might have sold for last year. We can add 5 to 10% because we have time. So if I have a vacant house and I have a person that doesn't need a seller that doesn't need the money to go to the next purchase immediately, we might be pricing $10,000, $20,000 higher on a $200,000 house just to make sure that there's an opportunity for everybody to come through the door. I mean, so right now I have one that's priced at 195, and I think, I thought it could be 175,000, but it's even more complicated because it doesn't have a garage. So anyway, we are pricing aggressively. We've been on the market for 3 days. We've had 7 showings, and one of them indicates that they're very interested. So we'll see what happens. What are you seeing are you looking at working with mostly sellers or buyers right now, or what's on the tip of your tongue, would you say?
That's a good question. I mean, I got a little bit of both going on. And as I'm navigating the hot sheets and I am mentally Rolodexing what everything is selling for, how long it's taken for houses to sell, I will say, and this could be the fact that we are in winter. I am seeing more houses sold for a discount than I've seen in a long time, which continues to nail down the fact that wintertime for a buyer, I don't care what the inventory situation is, your chances of getting a deal and having less competition are just much higher. You're not fighting a bunch of people who have families that don't want to rip their kid out of school too early. We're just still too early on in the school year for the flood of people that are going to naturally want to buy a house no matter what the economic conditions are. And then on top of that, if you're a seller, Luke will tell you the same thing. If we had a choice, if somebody came to us and said they want to sell their house, they can list it on January 1 or they can list it on March 1st. I mean, unless there's something very urgent going on in their life, but either way would work for them, we're going to go for the March one.
We are.
Because there's just going to be more people wanting to buy at that time. It's a better time for houses to sell and get more money. So that means if most agents are thinking like us, that means the people who are selling in the dead of winter have something going on.
They need to sell.
They're telling you without telling you that there's probably a deal to be had here, because under normal circumstances you could just wait, and they're not waiting. So with that, I'm seeing a lot of houses that are selling, and it's not, I'm not seeing 20 grand off here and 15 grand off here, but there was a time where most of our listings are selling at about 99 to 100% of the final list price on the house. Okay, so when you see houses selling for 3, 4, 5% lower, that's trending in the other direction. But I think as this grant money comes out and more people know about it, and you have the natural cycle of spring coming up, we're going to be in another situation where matter of fact, buyers better be lucky that interest rates don't go down 2% overnight. Because if they go down 2% overnight, we're going to have 2020 and 2021 again, where it's 15 offers. Doesn't even sound crazy.
Have you seen the TikToks or the Reels where they're posting what the race would be like or is going to be like when the rates go down? And there's one guy and he's running down the street and he's sprinting, and as the interest rates for houses come down, more people get on the road and more people get on the road. And then all of a sudden everybody's running like crazy. They're like elbowing each other.
Repost that.
Yeah. I don't know. Good question.
That's a good one, man. He'd be in TikTok, not on it. He's in it.
Yeah. I must have saw it on the wrong, on the secret channel. Do they even call it a channel on TikTok?
Brother, I don't know what's happening over there yet.
So let me see if I can make this interesting.
Okay. What you got for us?
So you were just talking about like activity over the last 3 months,
Yes.
Since I wrote that offer yesterday for my clients, but I wanted to go in, they were asking me, what should we bid? Price is $139,000, $139,900 or something. And it's like, well, honestly, I think you have to go over asking price. This thing is gorgeous, perfect, redone everything. These people owned it for 30 years. Wow. Everything's perfect, except it doesn't have a garage and the driveway is gravel, you know?
Oh, wow.
So
and this is day zero, though.
Yeah. You still might think, you know, well, maybe the winter's really slow, you know? Maybe we don't have to go over asking price. I've been watching the news and the real estate market's not booming right now. Okay, well, I'll just tell you right now, we lost, you know, and I think I told you we went 5,500 over asking, and then we went 6,500, still lost. We're a conventional loan. We don't have any dings against us. Okay, so before they were asking me what to bid, and I was unsure, but I said, I think you have to go over. I advised them that way. I pulled these numbers. I pulled every sale between $125,000 and $225,000, so $100,000 price range that closed in the last 3 months. Out of there in our city, there were 130 sales that closed. Only 20 of those 130 sales were over asking price.
Look at that. Look at my.
Only 20.
Wow.
Another 30 were right at asking price, even with asking price. So, you know, 50 out of 130 houses were asking price or above. Well, that tells you definitely have to bid asking price. This thing's a gem. I mean, this is beautiful. The neighborhood that it's in, highly desirable.
In a balanced market, this house would probably go over asking.
Probably so, yeah. And, you know, they took my advice. And after looking at this, I was confident in my advice that we should go over asking. But the question is, how much? Well, we did out of
basically
all the
3%, 3-4%.
Yeah. I think so.
In my head, that's
you're right
about what it is. Yeah.
And you know, so if I look at those 20 that bid over asking price in the past, or that closed in the past 3 months, 11 of them were over 5,000 over the asking price, as much as 26,000, 22,000, and 21,000. Those are vastly underpriced homes. You know, who knows on those houses? Could they have got 30,000 more than what they asked, or 40,000 more? Who is gonna bid more than 26,000 over the asking price? More than that. This is like record breaking. I'm saying, like, picking a price that's too low does not guarantee you that you get every dollar that your house is worth. But I'm also saying that, you know, as buyers, it's also important for us to look at this. There were 47 that were under the asking price by $7,500, $0 to $7,500, and there were 30 that were $7,500 to $26,000 under the asking price. But if you look up and down this list, most all of these are multiple days on the market. There's actually a few. There's one that's 2 days on the market. It sold for $14,000 under the asking. I don't know how that happens. 9 days on the market, sold for $26,000 under the asking.
It may be this has to be a repair situation. Something comes up in inspection period.
Ugly house.
You know.
Oh, maybe the price changed from when it went under contract to after they did inspections, right?
I'm dealing with that same situation now.
Yeah.
Which blows me away. We had a house. We felt like it was in a desirable neighborhood. My client was really wanting to be in this neighborhood. House was originally $245,000. But there were some things that in my interview of the agent that allowed me to feel like there was a little bit of weakness. A little bit of weakness in the...
From the agent? Is that what you said?
Yeah. In the confidence of their pricing.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say I took advantage of that. I would say that was in my mind when it came down to how to put in an offer on this house. By the time we put the offer in, this was day 2, there were no other offers on the table. Okay. So we went aggressive and put in an offer at $230,000, $15,000 off. Okay. Everything else about the deal was pretty normal. 1% inspection contingency, nothing crazy there. They countered back at $236,000 and we took the offer. So essentially we're $9,000 under asking price on a house that hasn't even been on the market for 5 days. That's not something you see very often. Then after the inspection contingency, there was about $4,000 worth of $4,500 worth of issues, which would have entitled us to about maybe $2,000 worth of negotiation room on this repair request. And this was not really my idea. She was getting information. My client was getting information from her uncles, her aunts, everybody in their family, and wanted me to write up a pretty aggressive repair request that we weren't even entitled to.
She smelled the blood in the water a little bit.
I
maybe.
don't know. I just think
did?
she just did. They just didn't understand. They thought that you could just ask whatever you want and play hardball in a repair request. And
well, they already got a little
Well,
something. They took a bite off the price at the front.
That's even more reason why they should just go with what, because when you sign the contract, it tells you what you're going to tolerate repair wise. So it's already spelled out. It's whatever we find minus the number you said you tolerate, which should have been no more than $2,000. She starts listing off a bunch of stuff that's going to cost maybe at least $6,000. And I say, look, because of the fact that we can't even agree on how much this stuff is going to cost, because they're going to get to choose the people and it's going to be a mess. Why don't we just choose $5,000? Let's just say if you reduce the price of $5,000, we'll take all this stuff on the way
and deal with it later.
And the sellers agreed. They just signed it.
Wow.
So we're getting the house now for $231, $14,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
On a house that was only on the market for 3 days.
Do you feel like it was all related to condition? And even the confidence. The confidence came from the low condition. Is that's
no, I don't listen. The condition of the house wasn't bad.
Sure.
You
but
could
were
say
they afraid of it?
Yeah, they were, because
Sellers,
we talked about this. When it comes to selling your house exactly as it is and making it retail ready for the market to get the highest possible, you really don't want to end up in the middle of those two things.
Yeah.
Or you will end up in the same situation that these sellers were in. And what they did is it was a house that had been in the family for years. The original owners have transitioned away from the home. So there were a lot of things that could have been updated. They focused on the main floor and they painted some walls and they updated the flooring, which did a lot. But in the basement, they did absolutely nothing. There's carpet down there that has been down there since before me and you were alive. And gosh darn it, this is some gosh heckin' really, really nice carpet in the sense that it has made it all these years.
Okay.
But there's a reason why you can't buy it now. It's ugly as hell.
There's probably some stuff living in it that's older than us too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why there's this lack of confidence. And then when you put a house out and you're not getting the amount of showings that you feel like you should get,
yeah,
that can manifest itself in how you talk to the other agents. And so keep that in mind if you're on the seller side. If you want to, I mean, it's a fine line between feigning confidence when it's not really there and trying to put on for the other person. But there is some performative stuff that we have to do as agents so we don't tip our hats or tip our hands, as far as how we actually feel. Because we've all had those sellers that insist on going higher than the comps say that they should go. And the moment that we say, okay, fine, we'll do it your way. I'll list it 10, 15% higher. I don't think it's going to sell. And if it doesn't sell in a month, we got to go to my way. Okay, well, in that month, you might already be indicating to the other agents that you're dealing with that you weren't really on board with the pricing to begin with, and maybe I'm going to use you as the other agent to kind of drive my point home that we were higher than we should have been. So bring in an offer. If it's great, great. If it's not, their fault.
Who would have thought or would think that mindset would be so important in selling a house? I mean, if you're going to go make a list of what's important for how you can sell this house next week, is mindset going to be on there at all?
No.
Are you going to talk to the seller about, hey guys, make sure that you're going to do these things, but you're not going to coach and be like, all right, we got to deal with floors, doorknobs, lights, and mindset. Like that's just not going to happen. And also you need, you're coaching yourself too. Like the realtor is a huge part of the sale in the communication to the other realtor. Even your communication as that seller agent, that's not even independent. Your communication between you and the seller, you're the filter from them to the other agent. And then that other agent is also another filter to the buyer, So this message, if it phrased in some way, if what, because you're the one controlling it as the selling agent. So you take the important parts and you get out those bad parts that are scary that will tip your hand to the other side. So if you somehow fray a little bit in what you say to that buyer agent, and you said all the things, but they pick up on the wrong one that maybe you didn't even mean to say, then they focus on that to the buyer. That can change the whole temperature of the offer. And, you know, I hate to say this as a person who likes to articulate and likes to talk. I like to take any fraying of my communication out at the beginning. I'm pretty tight-lipped as a seller agent. You ask me questions, the answers, they may not even be the real answers. You know, they're not lies. They're just not any kind of extra information
that I know you're probably pecking for.
Yes. And so what I'm trying to do as the seller agent is make it more about the house. Like whatever, because everybody wants to know. For some reason, every buyer wants to know, why are they selling? Hey, man.
There's a good reason they want to know, because one out of every so many times you're going to get an answer that goes,
they're getting divorced. They are moving to Antarctica.
Yes, yeah. Job offer that they must make a decision on
leaving
now.
Next week. They're, you know, I mean,
why are we giving this up?
You can't. And if you get into these conversations as the seller agent and you accidentally let something out, it can cost $5,000-$10,000, you know, and it can actually create aggression from that buyer after the inspection process. It can make them think that they can take further bites out of you. Yeah. And they're going to try it, you know? So it's like, as a seller agent in this market, you're showing a lot of strength all the time. You're showing a lot of fortitude in that situation for that seller. And it's just a big smoke screen up there. It's a big cloud. Hey, look at the house. I don't know. It's nice.
Listen, these are advanced tactics from people who have been in sales for a long time, we still value our integrity. We have to work with our colleagues within this space until we move away or until one of us dies. So our performance still has to be grounded in reality, because we're going to see these people again, and we still want them to trust what we're saying. So it's quite the dance, but this is what you're getting when you deal with somebody who has hundreds of deals under their belt, if not thousands, versus less than 50. Okay. I mean,
I'm doing one right now. We're closing today. And immediately the first thing she told me is they have another house that's under contract. They need to sell it now. So this is one that 2 months ago was priced at 165 or 170 or something like that. And we got it for a net of 155. From the very beginning, the first moment she told me they have a problem.
See, he wasn't going to let me be the only deal maker on this podcast today. I knew he had one in the pocket coming, baby.
I'm just waiting, baby, for the perfect time, for the finale, you know? Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'm warming you up for the next one.
No. We about to wrap this whole damn thing up, baby.
Yeah, but, you know, and then just all the way through. So I always knew, like, we can push them. And it showed all the way through to the end too. Like one thing that I picked up on it too, you know, as agents is I knew like, okay, I'm going to have to handle a lot of this stuff. Like I have to guide a lot of this negotiation. I have to say, all right, this goes on that document. This is how we communicate that. Like, first thing that happened is we got a little bit of inspection information back. And she's like, okay, let's settle it. I called her. I was like, hey, we're kind of talking about it. She's like, all right, I'll call him right now. I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do anything until we get I put this on paper. Whatever I send to you as a proposal is going to come on paper. And you know what? It threw me off because you know what? I forgot to look at the sewer inspection and the termite inspection. They both came back clean. I was, I don't know, stretched too thin or something. They were clean. And these are repeat clients, you know. But man, her trying to rush me and do it in however way she was going to do it, just kind of haphazardly crash through. It messed me up, you know. So even down to the closing day, like I'm arranging how her clients are going to get their money. You know, how she's trying to push me to make changes on my side, call my people. I said, well, have you asked your person this? Have you talked to the title company down in that city? No. Okay, well, you trust me, if you ask them this, they're going to tell you that and it's going to be fine. Well, can you just ask your people? No, I I can't. You have to do that first because I'm telling you what they're going to tell you. So the experience, I'm not trying to be, cocky or condescending or anything like that. Just as the realtors involved, we're managing a lot of mindset, a lot of the flow. And that is that's what we're being paid for, really. We're being paid to make this as smooth for that seller as possible, or as beneficial for that buyer as possible when they buy it.
And that's what experience gets you in this game. The ability to see the end in the beginning, to see the problems before they manifest, and to see the red flags before they even turn red.
Believe yourself. Once you know,
you cannot unknow.
Believe yourself, guys.
That's right.
Yeah, that's part of the reason that you're at this podcast today.
That's right.
That's why we're here. We want to share all this stuff with you guys.
That's right.
And
that's why you're hanging.
With the homeboys.
Period.
We're doing work.
That's right. Like, share, subscribe. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you soon.